I have seen political leadership close up. I saw CLR, I saw Eric Williams, I saw Kwame Nkrumah, I saw a few people who were leaders of movements, and I watched them. And I have to tell you that President Chavez is the most extraordinary political leader that I have ever seen. The grassroots love him, especially women. Women absolutely adore him for a very good reason, because this is their chance. This is all our chance. You look at him, I mean, they look at him and I look at him and say, we're going to do it this time. He has infinite patience hearing people, and he does really hear them. Now, Nello had that gift. I saw people who could hear. Nello was a hearer. By Nello, I mean C.L.R. James. That was his home and family name. And Chavez is a listener and a hearer. And the other thing is, he doesn't take himself so seriously. He's not pompous, he's not arrogant. He's very, very modest, and he's very open-minded, and he's very determined to give us our way. Look, the left hasn't got there yet, and they're the ones who are advising about what Chavez should do this and should do that, and they have some arrogance that is unbelievable. They say, well, at a meeting that we went to on Saturday, they say things like, well, Chavez was pushed to do this and he was pushed to do that. Chavez is a brilliant international strategist. Pushed, they don't know what push means. They don't understand the quality of this political leader. We are very gifted, and I'm terrified always when he goes to the US that they'll kill him. I mean, what Chavez has been able to pull off in neutralizing people who were offered a lot to be against him, I must say, he's the most extraordinary political leader I've known. He's on a par with Lenin, I think, who was also clearly extraordinary, but I didn't know Lenin.
I got an email from someone who had friends in Iran, and it was organizing around 8th of March in the global women's strike. I mentioned it to Nikki, and she didn't know about it.
No.
So it's often, I guess that's what you're saying, that a
Yes.
lot of people use it as a day to bring up issues from...
They do, but we do say they can't call it the strike unless they agree with the demands. We're happy to give publicity to whatever they do on the 8th of March, but we don't call it the strike unless they subscribe to the demand, first of all, payment for caring work, but then all the other demands like pay equity for all. And that means for all. That doesn't mean only for women and men, but we want pay equity in the sense that what we get here is what should be paid anywhere, anywhere in the world. We want international pay equity. We stand for that. We know that that's not going to come overnight. We don't expect it tomorrow, but we say this is what we aim for. We aim for pay equity. And equity as opposed to equal pay. Pay equity means if you do comparable work, you should get the same wages as somebody doing comparable work somewhere else. Food security for breastfeeding mothers, paid maternity leave and maternity breaks. Okay, it's a great struggle against the multinationals to keep breastfeeding. The things that they're doing are unspeakable. We saw them firsthand when we went to this breastfeeding conference in Tanzania, and they're really genocidal. And I think not only the result is genocidal, but the purpose is genocidal. In other words, they set out to kill babies.
Can you expand a little bit on this?
Well, what they do is, the multinationals want to sell milk, and they also want to kill a lot of children in third world countries. They do. So what they do is they give you free formula, and you give it to the baby, and very likely the baby will thrive on it, although not all babies will. But then your own milk dries up and they say, now it will cost you. But you can't reorganize, it's very hard to renew breastfeeding once it's stopped, once your milk has dried up. And so the babies either die or the women find money, which is very, very hard. For formula, you need clean water, and that's an enormous problem in many parts of the world. You know, I find socialist feminists who say women should go out to work, I'd like to know what is socialist about them. They think capitalist work is good for you. I don't know anything about that. I really don't. I know about women wanting to be with other women. Absolutely. And you go out to work sometimes for that. I know women wanting to have a wage at the end of the week in their own hand, that money that belongs to them. Absolutely, you go out to work for that. But you go out to work as a glorification. Excuse me. What is glorifying? What is edifying about being exploited? Unless they're the ones who are not exploited and are doing the exploiting. That's the only conclusion I can, or intend to. You know, my son told me a few years ago, look, you know, there's really something to celebrate. The first mother of 7, the first mother, and happened to be a mother of 7, was killed down the mines. Oh, this is wonderful. This is equality. She had 7 children. And she was allowed to be a miner. Who wants that equality? That is painful. That is painful. Like the feminists who came back from the Soviet Union, I remember that was about 20, or maybe even 25 years ago. She said it's really wonderful there that, you know, it's not only men who sweep the streets, it's women. Marvelous. No. And I have to say that when the first debate on wages for housework exploded at a women's conference in 1972, when I first put it forward at that conference, this feminist, socialist feminist said, we have to get women out of the home so that they join the workforce and join unions and have their consciousness raised. And another woman got up and said, you can't tell my mother that. She wants to come home. She's been out there for 20 years. And I said, look, there's no need for me to respond. That is exactly the point. You are planning for other women's lives. You are telling them how much better they'll be. You know, in Jamaica, they were saying they have to stop being servants and they have to go to work in a factory. And the woman who was with me was a domestic worker, and she didn't say anything. She would not say anything in this discussion with feminists. And when we left, she said, what makes them so special? The only difference between them and me is they get more money at the end of the week. I'm not ashamed of what I do.